In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone and Gerhard Mathangani.
Well, the topic of gambling in sports has been right there at the crosshairs of all the discussion in and around both college and professional sports. Not just football, but basketball, baseball, and everything else. And now Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, is weighing in on what he thinks is a bad move in the wrong direction for college athletes. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. And Patrick, the word out today is that Greg Sankey, while all these other leagues are kind of basically stripping away a lot of their restrictions for gambling, he wants the NCAA to go back to its original stance on gambling, not allowing college athletes or people with the sports staff or everybody else to be able to gamble on professional sports. That law was basically stripped down this past weekend on Saturday, and college athletes were able to gamble on pro sports, but he wants to see it go the other way.
Yeah, so it's supposed to go into effect, I believe, this Saturday.
Yep.
November 1st, I think, is the first day that the NCAA is allowing athletes and staff members to be able to bet on pro sports. But I'm really interested in what your opinion on this is, because in my opinion, I didn't really feel great about this. I mean, it's fun to just, throw the occasional bet down. But when you have these athletes who, if you haven't gone to college, if you never went to college, a lot of these collegiate athletes are friends with other athletes in different sports.
Absolutely.
So it's not, I believe the restriction is you just can't bet on your sport in the NFL.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we've got football players and baseball players hanging out all the time. I mean, we just saw this weekend College Game Day.
Yes.
The Vanderbilt baseball players, they were hanging out at College Game Day.
Yep.
So it's not like these guys just talk with each other, teammates, for example.
Right.
Like, teammates, oh, I was with you this year. You want to tell me if you're playing this year? I mean, like, I don't know. My whole thought process was it can be corrupt.
Yes.
Because of the fact that these athletes are friends with athletes in other sports.
No question. I'm right there with you. I think where the slippery slope comes in, it really comes in a couple of different ways. And as you mentioned it, because let's just not sugarcoat it, these players, a lot of the college players, will end up having some inside information on the professionals. Because, like you mentioned, especially at the Power 4 level, a lot of the guys that were, let's say you're recruited as a high school player to play at a college. Mm-hmm. Well, 2 years later, 2 years down the road, the person that was hosting you is one of your best friends. He's now off to the NBA or the MLB or the NFL. And now he has inside information about what is available, that's maybe not available to the public. So on its surface, allowing a kid that plays baseball at one university to be able to bet a football game at the NFL, on its surface, it's very innocent.
Yes.
It's very innocent. But when you dig deeper about the potential potholes, the potential slip-ups that you can have, that's when it gets really murky.
Right.
And this is where I think you and I are aligned on this. The main thing about gambling that I think a lot of people have a lot of issue with is that it can be an addictive behavior. It can be something that leads to an addiction. So let's just say a guy gets into gambling debt betting professional games. Mm-hmm. Does that now slip into what happens in college where there's a point shaving situation or whatever? You know what I mean? So I think that there is a situation where it can get really sticky with a lot of college athletes betting on professional games. On its surface, like I said, I really like it. I really like the fact they were able to do it. But I get why Greg Sankey and a lot of other people are saying, hey, NCAA, let's press the brakes on this, because this could lead to things that we do not want. We could have basically a lot of, in my opinion, you could have a lot of collateral damage as it relates to this, things that you really can't see just on the surface of allowing somebody to open up their phone and bet Bengals Broncos.
Yeah, exactly. And this just came out today that SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey met with the SEC presidents and chancellors about this whole ordeal. They held a meeting on October 13th. And what came out from that meeting was that all of the presidents and chancellors were clear and united about wanting to reverse this ruling from last week. Now, the Division I Board of Directors will meet today, actually, and it is expected that they will discuss this. So I don't know if it's exactly going to change today. I don't know if we're going to have anything come out about it, but I'm sure we're going to hear something that they're at least talking about it. But, I mean, this has got to be I think we first heard about this last month, and that there was some rummaging about, I think we're going to start trying to let these athletes be able to bet on pro sports and staff. Well, now I think after and it is very easy to say this in hindsight after what just happened last week.
And that's the ironic thing about it, because this literally, the NCAA's ruling came literally days before the big news broke, and now Chauncey Billups is potentially facing jail time. Same thing with Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, possibly, obviously innocent until proven guilty. But these are the kinds of issues that you can have, and people will say that's a long way down the road, and you're right, but Terry Rozier had no reason to be caught up in any of this.
No.
Chauncey Billups had no reason to be caught up, and I know Chauncey Billups is on the other side of this, on the poker side of this, but there's a point to me where I get why people are having to say push the brakes. And one of the big things that in Sankey's statement, so to speak, in one of his letters, I think he had a letter to the NCAA president, and one of the things he said, it kind of stuck out to me, was that the integrity of competition is directly threatened when anyone with insider access becomes involved in gambling.
Yes.
Even when the wagers are placed on professional sports, the simple act of participating in gambling normalizes behavior, blurs the boundaries, and erodes judgment. Strong words, yes, but I get where he's coming from with this, and it could be something as simple as a guy from Oklahoma who is a freshman football player, and I'm just using a blatant example. A freshman or sophomore football player is friends with a former Oklahoma Sooner who used to play basketball, who is now in the NBA, who understands that the point guard will not be able to play for the first 2 games of the season, and they might not score 150 points, or whatever, 120.
I'm trying to make like an actual example here. Who was the quarterback in 2018 for Oklahoma? Was it Rattler? No, it wasn't Rattler at that point. I don't think.
Was that the Caleb? No, it wasn't Caleb.
No, I think because it was Rattler before Caleb.
Was it Baker?
I thought Baker went in 2016.
That. Yeah, so it's after Baker, before Spencer?
Yeah, so let's just say, for example, Spencer Rattler is friends with Trae Young.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then Trae Young says to Spencer, yo, my man, I'm gonna have to sit out today. I got a bum foot, but I'm not gonna tell anybody about it.
Right.
So go ahead and just bet the under on me.
And it could be, and
it's that easy.
Yeah, it is that easy. And hopefully the Terry Rozier situation is a cautionary tale to not do any of that. But we have seen these slip-ups happen again and again and again. And I know one of the big things and one of the talking points last week was about prop bets. And you and I have had this conversation on this show about the prop bets overall. And one of the points that I heard, and I thought it was a great point about the prop bets, is that I would want to see prop bets be only overs. That way you can't bet unders. If it's only one way and you can only bet overs, yes, you can still change some small things, but for the most part, you're not betting unders. Unders are very, very easy to manipulate, more so than overs, and that's where I think that we got a little hairy in the sports world overall, and especially with this Terry Rozier story.
Yeah, and I feel like the only way I could ever see, the only way I could make any logical sense about someone betting on their own sport would be, I want to bet on myself to have a good game, so I'm going to bet the over on myself.
Right.
I mean, obviously, it's, as you mentioned, it's a lot easier to have your under hit than the over.
Correct.
And, I mean, some people could say, well, even if you do have the over, they could reach out to the other team and be like, hey, I'll give you a share of the profit. But, I mean, that's more heads that get involved.
Yeah.
More likelihood of someone slipping up and saying, hey, look what just happened here. Mm-hmm. And just it's like a 1 or 2% chance that would actually happen.
Right. And that's where I think if this does come about, if there are changes, I think at least a modification of this might be worth taking a look at. But like you said, this train is coming down the road very soon, and in the next 5 days, 6 days, they will legally be able to bet, and so that's going to be really interesting to see how they all handle this. But it wasn't just Commissioner Sankey that was upset about this, and you and I have talked about some of the talking heads, because I think everybody has an opinion. It's like they're like you and I, and the chancellors, the ADs, the commissioners, they all have different thoughts about this. And especially the coaches, because they know these players very, very well, and especially some of the coaches that are very outspoken, if you will.
Yeah, so one of those coaches that was very outspoken about this whole ordeal even happening, the thought of it even coming to fruition, is Pittsburgh Panthers head coach Pat Narduzzi. I gotta give my man some props, even though I back up in Morgantown, West Virginia, we don't really like him. Right. I think he does have a good point here. Let's take a listen.
I think it's absolutely one of the stupidest decisions I've ever seen. First of all, it's a habit. It's no different than smoking, drinking, doing drugs. It's a bad habit, and I don't think anybody in here would encourage you guys to go out drinking and getting smashed on a Friday night or Saturday night, or at a ball game in at Acrisure Stadium. And it's a disease. I mean, you saw, the same day that comes out, there's a disease in the NBA with what's going on there. It doesn't matter how much money you make as a coach, you're still gambling like that. It's not to make money. It's because, your addiction to it, I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I can, and I'm not speaking for anybody, but I just think it's an addiction. And I think, if you want to go to the casino down the road and hang out there and throw your money away, I think you're going to continue to win. I mean, gambling's gambling. I'm not a gambler. I just don't understand it. I'm not addicted to anything. I just don't think it's a great thing to teach our young people how to do. It's a thing on your phone, and you can pick it up and you can get on an app, and it's like, what are we doing? And once you do it once and you win, you want to go do it again. It becomes an addiction. I just think it's not good. And and it's the same thing with these availability reports. I mean, what are we doing? We're encouraging gambling and people to say, oh, he's out. Let me put some more money down there, see if I can, get it done and win. So, good question. It's a bad deal. And it all comes down to they probably don't want to have to take care of all the business that goes with trying to monitor it. But push the wrong button on your phone, see what happens. Go, oh, I thought that I did it, but I thought it was an NFL game. I pushed the wrong button and just put a bet on a college football game. I just think it's not good, and I'm not going to change my tune. Tomorrow I'll talk about, because I haven't had a chance to really address our team. I'll talk about it in team meeting. One of the first things I'll talk about is I guess November 1st they can do that, but stay away. Nothing changes in our room. You guys shouldn't be doing any of that. Save your money, put it in the bank.
Not short of words there is Narduzzi. And he actually brought up a really interesting point. I didn't really think about that, where he says, sometimes it can be a slip of the finger. Yep. And next thing you know, you're betting something that you not are supposed to bet. Because, I mean, there's some betting sites, they'll have, if you look at it from the weekend perspective, they'll have popular bets. Right. And so let's just say, all you see on there is, Cincinnati. You want to bet Cincinnati. You think you're betting the Cincinnati Bengals. Exactly. You're not. You're betting the Cincinnati Bearcats. And next thing you know, you could be in some trouble. Now, I mean, obviously, some of these things could be a little far-fetched, but I get his point overall. I think some people who use the addiction thing, it's some of it is mountain out of molehill. Some of it I understand. Mm-hmm. I think most people don't have a compulsory need to gamble. I think most of them it's you're doing that for fun to create more stakes for watching the games. But I do find it entertaining to see where people stand on this, and especially from his position as a coach. Yeah,
I mean, to your point, I mean, we don't really see this anymore because the Big East is gone for football, but Pitt versus Cincinnati.
Sure.
I mean, you could easily get tripped up because obviously the Steelers and the Bengals play each other a ton.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it really is that dangerous. And some of these guys, aren't really well-versed. I mean, you probably got some guys coming all the way across the country trying to learn a brand new conference, brand new area, and they don't really know better than, some of the people who are in the area that are probably like, well, it's not really that hard to mess up. But I mean, still, you've got these guys that are trying to learn a new thing. I do think you bring up a good point, because I don't think these athletes are necessarily vulnerable to getting addicted to gambling. I mean, you have so many resources in place to help these guys, so I don't see that really being a problem.
Right, I don't either. And but it will be interesting as this whole thing moves forward, because there are a lot of potential pitfalls here, and I think that what Greg Sankey, Pat Narduzzi, and a lot of other people are doing, they're firing off a couple warning shots that, hey, if we do have problems with this down the road, there's a paper trail of us saying that we were not in favor of this in the first place.
Right.
And maybe even if it's just saying, hey, we know we cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak, we want to be on the quote-unquote right side of history, saying that we were against this from Jump Street. We'll see how it all shakes out, though, because I do find it really, really interesting, and to see, like will these players, will they, start hyping up their bets that they have on social media, and we'll see, obviously follow it and see how it all shakes out here over the next few weeks and months. Certainly something to follow. It's one of the hot topics in and around sports altogether, especially now on the college ranks, as they're able to bet pro games at the end of this week. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we talk Tennessee football with our good friend Sam Rothman. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus on a Taco Tuesday. We still haven't gotten those tacos.
My bad. maybe next week when we don't have anything crazy, hopefully, going on in the SEC.
I know. I feel like
coaches getting fired left and right and stuff.
Yeah.
Sankey blasting the NCAA. Like, what are we doing out here?
I know. And I feel like every like this past maybe 3 or 4 weeks, early in the week, there's been something that completely rocks the boat. Speaking of things that are rocking and rolling, Tennessee football right now is, and we are joined by our good friend Sam Rothman after a big win over Kentucky. It's been a while.
Welcome back, Sam.
I know, it's been a while since we've seen your face. How have you been? There has been so much going on there in Tennessee, both in the gridiron and the diamond.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a week, but I kind of felt like that Kentucky game, no one was really, not to say not excited for, but we're like, oh yeah, wait, Tennessee's playing football right now because of all the Vitella news and everything. But yeah, everything has calmed down. There was a lot of, if Danny White didn't hire Elander to be the next head coach, and if Kentucky lost, I think maybe there would have been mattresses on fire again here at Tennessee. But all has calmed down. Everyone's happy with the Elander hire. Everyone's happy with the Kentucky win. So all is good on Rocky Top now, for now.
Absolutely. We'll talk baseball here in a second. Let's go to football first. Obviously, the team bounced back after that loss to Alabama in Tuscaloosa. They go back on the road. They get a win over Kentucky, a team that's been really feisty over the last few weeks. Break down what you saw there from the boys over in Lexington being able to get a big win.
Yeah, it's really just good on one side of the ball, bad on the other side of the ball. And that bad is so confusing. This is all we've been talking about with this defense. It is so confusing. But just starting with the offense, Joey Aguilar was just a dude against Kentucky. Had a great bounce back game after struggling a little bit against Alabama, but hit 5 deep balls, I think, 3 of those for touchdowns, a 50-yarder, a 60-yarder. I mean, he was just slinging it. And again, the players, wide receiver Chris Brazel was laughing the post-game press conference saying, I don't know why they kept doing man coverage against us. Like, you should know better by now, but obviously it worked, right? And Tennessee's offense just looked really good. Struggling to run the ball a little bit, but if you're throwing it like that, you really don't need to run the ball, right? You can just score in 2 plays. Defensively, Kentucky came in as the worst offense in the SEC. They allowed nearly 500 yards of offense, and that's not good. There was a lot of big chunk plays, and we've been talking about missed tackles. I think really from the beginning of the season, the players are tired of talking about it. The coaches are tired of seeing it on film, and just like no one has a response. They keep saying it's fixable, it's fixable. We haven't seen it be fixed. Right. So that is something to definitely see. But at the other end, like Tennessee is one of the worst defenses, but then they have 5 defensive touchdowns. That leads the nation. It's been so confusing. They had another one of them against the Wildcats. So it's really confusing because the defense has been reasons that they've almost lost or lost games, but also why they stayed in games too. Because against Kentucky, Tennessee was up by maybe 3 scores, and all of a sudden it was a 1-score game. Right. And it was because of a big interception and plays on defense. So it's been so confusing, this Tennessee defense that, if you remember last year, was the best in the nation. And they didn't really lose a lot of pieces. So it's just been very confusing.
I know. For the offense, we'll start with the offense first, because I think the defense, as you mentioned, the turnovers, being able to get turnovers, I think is a special skill that not a lot of teams have. Even the good defenses don't have. So I think that is something that they can, take with them moving forward. For this offense and Joey Aguilar, he looks to be back to form from what we saw at the beginning of the season and what we saw that first half of the Georgia game. Where is his confidence level right now? Where is he in the offense? Because it looks like this quarterback play is sustainable to be able to make a very, very deep run.
Yeah, I would say his confidence, even though, he struggled a little bit against Alabama and in some of those other games against Arkansas, his confidence has never wavered. I mean, if you talk to the guy, he is calm, cool, collected, and that's what you love out of a quarterback, right? And that's what Tennessee needs right now. But he was just talking about how much fun he had. He always has a smile on his face. He rebounds so impressively, and to come back from that Alabama game and to have a performance like that just shows his character and how, when he's feeling it, he's feeling it. And a lot of those things against Alabama, I mean, it was just not a great performance overall. You can't blame it all on him. But just to have the performance that he did and be able to throw like that, make those deep balls, again, that we saw early on in the year, get back to that, again, you have to take into account the opponent they were facing and that Kentucky defense a little bit too. But just, it doesn't matter if you play. To have a game like that, I think that just, like you said, builds that confidence. He already has that confidence, but it always helps to have a performance like that, especially going into the rest of the season. I mean, you can't lose the game if you want to make the playoff. It's just win out, and that's all you can do. So.
Yeah, exactly. Sam, moving ahead to this game against Oklahoma, I find it a little bit interesting because obviously we just talked about Joey Aguilar and the offense getting back on track. Well, Oklahoma just had one of its worst defensive performances in recent memory against Ole Miss. But again, you flip it on the other side, Oklahoma's offense hasn't been good since John Mateer's come back. Yeah. And we just talked about, again, the Vols defense hasn't been good all year. So, I mean, when you look at those matchups, what do you see having more of an impact?
I would have to say, because Oklahoma's offense doesn't really scare on paper, I think it's going to come down to Tennessee's offense, Joey Aguilar, against this Oklahoma defense. Yeah, I mean, they played Ole Miss, right? Ole Miss is going to be a tough matchup. But I think this Oklahoma defense is legit, and I think Tennessee understands that it's legit, and you're not going to be able to do what you did just this last week against Kentucky. So I think it's going to come down to can the offense. Now, I'm not worried about the defense getting stopped because this Oklahoma offense, John Mateer has just not looked the same since he had that thumb surgery and came back from injury. And so, I think it's really going to come down to if Aguilar can continue that play that he had at Kentucky this week, especially you're at home, you're on prime time, it's dark mode, it's kneeling at night, Spooky Rocky Top will be playing. Like, if you're not, like, excited for this game, there's a problem, right? And this offense should be hyped. And I think the defense will feed off of that as well, because at home, the defense has looked a lot better, just feeding off the crowd's energy, especially on third down, when the crowd's going nuts and all that. So I think that will be really important.
Yeah, absolutely. This feels like an elimination game for the college football playoff, like for the teams. Is that something that Coach is talking about? I know that whenever you get to 2 losses, there's a kind of a balance that a coach has to do with the, trying to stay the one game at a time, going 1-0, that coach speak, but also getting your guys to realize there has to be a sense of urgency with every game and you cannot afford to lose. What's the way that Coach Heupel is addressing this game, knowing, like we said, that it is a de facto playoff game in itself?
You're never getting an answer on that from Coach Heupel. Yeah. He is just the most coach speak coach there is, but the players have talked about it, right? So the players, I think we talked to Miles Kitselman this week, who talked about how they know they have to win out, but again, they are just keeping that 1-0 mindset, because the second you look ahead and you look, oh, well, we have to beat Florida in the swamp. We haven't beat Florida in 20 years. You're overlooking Oklahoma, right? So I think they know they have to take it one game at a time. And a big thing that we had heard earlier after the Alabama loss was Tennessee made the playoff last year with 2 losses, right? Like they have those 2 losses. They're fine. You make this Tennessee team will make the playoff if they win out. Like they have a 90% chance unless craziness happens around them. They're basically in. So they understand that. But, it's hard to not look ahead. It really is, especially when you have that Florida game that you haven't won in 20 years. And looking at the schedule, don't even look at Florida. Look at week 14. Yep. That could be for a playoff spot for both sides. What scares me is if Tennessee falls in one of these games. And then Tennessee has nothing to lose, but Vanderbilt is fighting at Neyland Stadium to go to the college football playoff. Yeah. That atmosphere is going to be insane. Yeah. And hopefully it's for Tennessee to make the playoff, right? And not just for Vandy to make the playoff, but that would be an awesome environment. When has the Tennessee Vandy, last year that Tennessee Vandy game counted because Tennessee needed to win, but when has it meant so much for both teams, right? Yeah. So, and it's hard not to look ahead to that game, right? Sure. So, but you just have to, this is an elimination game. You said it, like Tennessee has to win, and that's it. And at home in primetime, you should win.
Absolutely. One big note here from the football standpoint is on the offensive side, the receiver, Chris Brazzell. Everybody's been talking about, whether it's Cam Coleman and Ryan Williams, and there's a lot of people who've gotten more national hype. This guy, to me, might be the best receiver in college football. Break down what he has meant to this offense and the breakout game that he had and what they'll look forward to him for the next few games.
Yeah, he leads the SEC right now. He's basically led the SEC all season long. He started on a heater. He had 7 touchdowns, I think, in 3 or 4 games, and he kind of quieted down as teams started, planning for him, double teaming him and all that. But you know what that allowed? If you look at the standings, Tennessee has 3 wide receivers in the top 10. They just had 3 wide receivers rack up over 100 yards in one game, the first time since 2019 doing that. This is just an elite wide receiver room. And the great thing is if they're focused on Chris Brazzell, Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley are like, okay, no one's on us. We're going to score, But just the fact that Chris Brazzell, he's not only good when he's the one doing the work, but he's good because he takes attention away from the other guys. So just what he's been able to do this season, especially last season, not having the season he wanted, being very quiet. This has just been a breakout year. And I would agree with you. If not the best, one of the best in the SEC.
Absolutely. Sam, you've been awesome. Hang tight for 1 second. We'll take a very, very quick break. We'll talk some baseball on the other side of this as there's a new coach there in Knoxville.
Welcome back here to Southeast Sports Plus. Sam Rothman joining us again. We just talked about Tennessee football. Let's flip it to Tennessee baseball right now. Obviously, a lot of big news out of Knoxville last week with Tony Vitello leaving for San Francisco. Can you kind of peel back the curtain to the public about what we didn't see about Tony that kind of needs to be brought to light?
Yeah, I can just tell you some stories with me. I just got to Knoxville 2 years ago, and I was maybe a month on the job, right? And Tennessee was taking on Clemson in the Clemson Regional, and I was one of the only TV people to go. And I don't even think I had introduced myself to Tony or not, but he knew that I was new and that I had made the trip out there. He came over to me and he was like, "Thanks so much for coming. Have a safe trip back to Knoxville." And I think that just tells you, like, he knows all of the media, what's going on in their lives. The second the camera went off, he would sit there and chat. Anything you wanted to talk to him about, he would talk about. A lot of times he makes sure the cameras aren't rolling because he said it like it is. If you want to know his true feelings on a player or a coach, you got it. Like, it was just such a pleasure covering him. I don't think I'll ever cover a coach like that. Again, just with his time, always going to do sit downs with us, always doing interviews with the media. I remember in Omaha for the World Series in 2024, obviously there was so much national media there, right? And so many people that had not covered his team. And he made sure that local media got his time and all the best. And he would say, if things overlapped, he made sure that the local media had the priority. And I don't think a lot of people would do that. Usually people would go to the ESPNs or, the ABCs or something like that, but he knows that the local media is there on a Tuesday night when he's changing pitchers every out, right. And it's a 4.5-hour baseball game in 40-degree weather. He knows who was there, and he knows who he will want to give his time to. And what just he did for this community, from the lemonade stands when he was suspended to just all the charity work he did. I think that went very unnoticed. And working at a news station, a lot of the sports people wouldn't be there, but we would be covering these charity events, and there's Tony. Tony was there again. Like, right. Just a great ambassador for the university and a great person, and obviously a really talented baseball coach.
Absolutely. I think all of us, from a professional standpoint, dealing with athletics, you want to work at the highest level. But you can make an argument that from college basketball to professional basketball, largely the same thing. You have to deal with some egos. Yeah. Football is the same way. Baseball, to me, is very, very different because you go from, you have the entire control over everything. Yeah. You control who you recruit. You control what locker rooms you go into. You control what homes you go into. You have, from player 1 to player 40, you have control over all of it. Professional baseball is so different, especially at the major league level. What do you think drove him to say, hey, I want to take on this challenge, knowing how different it is from college to the pros?
Yeah. I don't think, not to say that the MLB was never a goal of his, right? You always want to go to the majors, but I think he wouldn't have strived for this on his own if they wouldn't have come to him. And I think that's why, MLB baseball, just especially with the Giants, they needed that oomph. They needed a Tony Vitello to bring, that passion and everything back. And it's never been done before, but that's just saying something. They want to change and they want a difference. Will it work out? No one knows. But it's going to bring a difference, and you can't get much worse than what the Giants have. And just seeing what he has done at Tennessee. I mean, people would literally have to be paid to attend a baseball game, and you could get a ticket anytime. Now there's a 10-year waiting list for season tickets. They're hundreds of dollars. Tennessee baseball is at the forefront of not only just SEC baseball, but college baseball. I mean, he totally turned this program around.
Lindsey Nelson's getting some nice renovations.
Lindsey Nelson Stadium looks like a real stadium. So if there's a guy to be able to do it, to do a turnaround and to put his whole heart into everything, you can never say that guy didn't care or put his whole heart into it. Like, no kids, no wife. I mean, he was married to the game, right? Yeah. So, and for him, it's a win-win. Okay, let's say it doesn't work out, right? How many colleges are going to come calling saying, I'll take him back? 100%. I mean, it's a saving situation. If it doesn't work, he's still fine, right? So, I mean, you have to try, right? He's a competitor. He's going to want to try to compete, and especially with being the first to ever do this, I think the fact that it took him so long to make a decision shows how much he loved this place. And on Tuesday, we were out at the ballpark. I don't know if you guys know about this, but fans that held an open scrimmage, they called it. They planned this whole thing. They packed the stadium. and were chanting his name, one last-ditch effort to keep him to stay. And he acknowledged the crowd, was telling how much he loves them and appreciates the support and all that. And he really said, like, that he didn't want fans to think that he didn't take that into account, like that he made the decision the next day to leave. Like, that did have a profound impact on him, and I think his time here really had a profound impact on him. And I don't think most people would have taken months to decide on this job if it was any other, coach. Like, you could tell how much he loved this place and this opportunity, even though MLB was calling, right?
Yeah. Sam, I think we talked on the program last week about how before Tony Vitello, Tennessee baseball was kind of like the doormat of the SEC, so to speak. I mean, I think I said something when Todd Helton's your best player before Tony V comes, you've got some issues there, but I mean, you went down the list, 2022, what an incredible year to win the national title in 24, just absolutely amazing. But let's flip it forward now, because Tennessee had to find someone to replace Tony Vitello, and they go with Josh Elander. I have to ask, was there any thought of doing an external search, or was he always going to be the guy?
So if you talk to Danny White, who is Tennessee's athletic director, he did a nationwide search that lasted 3 days. So yes, there were rumors that Kevin Schnall at Coastal Carolina interviewed for the job. But the second Tony accepted the job to go to San Francisco, the Hire Elander campaign was on. I mean, it was flooding my timeline. Current, former recruits just saying, hire this guy. And for those who didn't really know Josh Elander, he was a behind-the-scenes guy, but he's the hitting and recruiting coordinator, right? Right. Tennessee breaks records every single year with their offense, home runs, hits, all that jazz, right? And then recruiting, they've had the #1 class for the past 2 years. Yep. Like, he's the guy. While Tony's the face and had so much to do with the success, right? Josh Elander is the guy who has so much with the success and really didn't get a lot of the credit for it, but he did get the credit in that room. Mm-hmm. And you could just see, I mean, he talked about in his press conference yesterday about how seeing all that made him soft, right? It made him emotional, but he had to kind of throw it out because he needed to focus on his interview, right? And Danny White talked about how he nailed the interview, and how could you not? Like, he also talked with the players and the leadership council, and they all were gunning for him. So I feel like it was a no-brainer for Danny White to not hire this guy. And if he didn't hire the guy, I would be worried about Tennessee's reaction, because that's all they wanted, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like both football and baseball, it has a real chance this year for Tennessee Vandy to be under the national spotlight. Because we just talked about in the football game how it's lining up a potential collision course in the college football playoff for one or both teams. Yeah. In baseball, it really feels like both Vandy and Tennessee will have a realistic shot to win the SEC championship and go on to Omaha. So it feels like both athletic programs not only are reinvesting into obviously their programs, but also trying to get the best of the best there at both universities.
Yeah, it's just a great time. Like, it sounds cliche, it's a great time to be on Rocky Top. Right now, the sports, we haven't even talked about basketball. We had an exhibition against Duke on Sunday. Right. They ended up losing it, but they look pretty good. Looks like they won't, lost a lot of players, but they look good. A little growing pains. You have Rick Barnes as your coach. I don't think anyone's worried.
Lifetime contract.
So, yeah, he's a lifetime contract. Lady Balls are in the top 5. I mean, there's just a lot of excitement, and there's just a lot of, you talk about NIL and the funding and putting resources into the school, and Tennessee has really done a good job of that, going from, one of the least funded in the SEC to #2 right behind Texas, Mm-hmm. So I think right now there's just a lot of pouring into these athletic programs, and obviously football's the spotlight, but basketball, baseball, all these things right behind it. So absolutely. Yeah, it's fun for us to cover, right?
No doubt, no doubt. Sam, you are awesome. Thank you so much for coming here on Southeast Sports Plus. I know you're very, very busy, and we appreciate your time.
Of course. Maybe I'll start. I heard you guys talking about gambling and betting. Maybe I'll take you guys up on it.
Yes.
Maybe I'll. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
Next appearance, we're gonna have gambling with Sam.
Yes.
We're just gonna put together money line parlays and everything
else.
We'll get your best bets for the week. Thank you so much, Sam.
I'll see you guys later.
Take care. Sam Rothman out of Knoxville. There's a lot going on right now within that program, and both Sam Granville, Sam Rothman, and KCK doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I mean, she brings up an amazing point. Rocky Top is just on top of the sports world right now.
Yes.
Tennessee, I hope nothing more than for Tennessee Vanderbilt to play each other for a spot in the college football playoff on the line to end the season. I think that would be one of the most electric atmospheres in all of college football. I know you're going to have to rival the Iron Bowl that weekend, but still, it's just going to be great.
One of my overreactions a couple weeks ago was Tennessee is the best state right now for football. When you add in what Tennessee's doing, what Vanderbilt's doing, and what Memphis is doing so far this season, as of right now, the college football world is right there in Rocky Top. Keep it right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll talk LSU football coming up next. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here on a Tuesday. Welcoming our friend Chessa Boucher here. Gerhard, Mathangani, Patrick Walsh on Southeast Sports Plus. Okay, so the news came out on Sunday, and the very first thing that crossed my mind when Brian Kelly was first fired is, I got to hear from Chessa Boucher on this. You have been firing warning shots, really, I would say from the beginning of the season about, hey, maybe let's find out what this team is. And then last week, Patrick asked you point blank, is this the next James Franklin? You said yes, and turns out you're right. Your initial reactions and then where you are a couple days after the big announcement there in Baton Rouge.
Well, I will tell you, Sunday is my first off day, and so I'm sitting there. I was getting ready to open up a margarita, and then the news broke, and I was like, oh, they're doing this. They're really doing this. And so, of course, I get called into work. Brian and I had to go do live shots for the next 3.5 hours outside football operations and trying to scope everything out. I was a little surprised just simply in the fact of because of the buyout. I think the way that this team absolutely collapsed in the second half against Texas A&M, they hadn't been beaten like that at home in a while. Actually, though, the worst loss at home over the BK era was 2022 against Tennessee, but that also Tennessee was a top 5 team, and they punched you in the mouth from jump. This one, you had a 4-point lead going into halftime, and they just absolutely folded. But I think it's a combination of everything we've seen this year. I will tell you, though, when Brian Kelly got hired, I was high on him because I felt like he had the pedigree. Right. I felt like he didn't have the roster to be able to win the national championships. He could get there, but he just needed the right roster. Mm-hmm. Well, then you open your mouth last year, Coach BK, and you talk about we're keeping receipts and we'll see you at the national championship. You can't say that, spend $18 million, and then flop like you did, especially with 3 losses before we're even in November. So to me, I felt like it was the right move. I understand that if you don't make this move, you've lost the team completely. You've lost this team. You've lost this roster, everybody. So I think they were doing a lot of damage control. But I will tell you, if you would have told me after the Clemson loss that 2 months later Brian Kelly would be out the door, I would have been like, "You're funny. That's a funny. That's not happening. $3 million. It's not going to do." And then, sure enough, here we are. Yeah. Wild. Absolutely wild.
Absolutely, it is. Now that his tenure is over, I think you made a great point last week, and you said it kind of tongue in cheek, but I think you really meant it, and I think it's a more of an umbrella issue. And you talked about how he's one of the only coaches that comes to LSU and loses weight. He just didn't. Yeah. It just felt like, from a fit perspective, just the LSU culture, it felt like no matter how good of an actual coach he was, he never fit the culture down there. Now that he's out and you can kind of put a bow on his tenure there, what do you make of what the decision was to get Brian Kelly? Because as you see there on your graphic, the 3 coaches before them, I know 2 of them were fired, but they all came back with a championship trophy.
Yep. Yeah, I thought that this was going to be a good hire. On paper, it looked like a great hire. You have a coach who had coached for over 35 years and only had 1 losing season. Again, I just felt like he needed to have the right roster. When you talk about putting $18 million into this roster and you're going all chips, everything on the table, and you come up short in back-to-back SEC games like they did, and then you lose in the manner that you did, you can't come back from that. And so to me, I can say that it's disappointing for how it all unfolded for Brian Kelly. And at first I was like, you know what? He's just I've heard things about him, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to try to form my own opinion. In the first year, I was impressed. I think he came out of the gate, especially with only having 36 guys on their roster when he took over the program. It was not in great shape, and I think he overachieved in year 1, which ultimately set the bar even higher than it already is in Baton Rouge. But I agree with a fit perspective. I don't like the whole fit, and Nick Saban was not from the South. Les Miles was not from the South. But what they did is they worked their tail end off, and they bled purple and gold. They went out and they were kissing babies, and they were asking for fan support. Brian Kelly was on the golf course. Yeah. Brian Kelly was at the beach. Brian Kelly did not take ownership when the games were lost. He always put it on, it's bad coaching, not, hey, it's on me. And so for me, I lost respect from him hearing how he handled situations like that, especially when you're the head coach of a program like LSU. It falls on you. It doesn't matter if that was your call or not your call. You hired that person to bring them in to make that call, and it didn't work, and you have to own it. He never owned it. Last week's press conference was the first time he said, it's on me. But I think it was too late for him to say it's on me. So to me, I lost respect because I think he got the contract and the money because of his pedigree, and he wasn't willing to do the work. And we saw that, and that was the product on the field. And I think that the team didn't respect him. They respected Ed Ogeron because Ed Ogeron was at that facility. He lived, breathed, everything was LSU. I just felt like Brian Kelly came in for a paycheck and wanted a natty, but didn't want it enough. And so I think that's the product that we saw on the field. Yeah,
and I mean, I go back to him flaming the reporter for asking about the offense earlier in the year, and I mean, as we've seen how that's turned out, it turns out that they were right about the whole thing because, I mean, Joe Sloan's gone now too, but I got to go back to what I asked you last week, and it stems around, is Brian Kelly James Franklin? Well, I made a comment on the show yesterday saying that Brian Kelly is the Nick Saban of James Franklin's. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is that a little too harsh?
I would have to agree with that. I mean, being 5-11 against ranked teams,
yeah,
you are what your
LSU.
record is, and that's what sucks is that he's won a lot of ball games, but he's not won a lot of meaningful games, and that doesn't cut it in the SEC. That doesn't cut it in Baton Rouge. Fans are there supporting this team. People that may not even have enough money to pay their light bill, but they're going to put money down to go watch an LSU game. And you can't even put a good product on the field. There's no relatability with Brian Kelly, and I think that's ultimately what played out is that he just was not a great leader. I think his two worst mistakes was when he took over this program. He got rid of Corey Raymond, who's the godfather of DBU. That was his biggest mistake, and we saw that in the secondary years to play out, and it's just now coming back with him bringing him on 2 years ago and then letting Blake Baker go. I think Blake Baker did a hell of a job with the linebackers and what he did, and he should have never left the building. And Brian Kelly was quick to bring his guys in and then realize this is not going to work. And so I think the coaching staff and what he brought in, rather than really doing his due diligence and figuring out who he wanted on that staff, he was a little lax about it and brought in guys that didn't fit what it takes in Baton Rouge.
Absolutely. Now, in my opinion and several others, this job is now the #1 job in all of college football. Let's spin it forward to who is next, both a realistic way and the way that they'll go about this search from a timeline perspective as they move forward.
I will tell you, I am a bit concerned because I'm not sure if y'all know or not, LSU doesn't have a president. So the governor has stepped in, and he's a loose cannon as it is. He brought in a fake Mike the Tiger last year, and it was a disaster. And so it's one of those things of, it scares me that he has not full control, but he's got to say so in this. So I don't know which way you go. I will tell you before, with Scott Woodward, I believed in him because he brought in Kim Mulkey. He brought in Jay Johnson, and he's very direct and very precise in what he does and the way he does things. So, but when you have the buyout and he did the deal at A&M with Jimbo Fisher, and then he did the deal with Brian Kelly, I'm like, man. But speaking of candidates, if I had a magic wand and money and said, this is the guy that LSU brings in, I would bring in Dan Lanning. And I say that because I think Dan Lanning has been a huge success at Oregon. Obviously, we don't have the Nike money. We're not on that level. But I think you have the resources here. I think him at Oregon, he's got an easier path to the college football playoffs. So does he want to leave that? But is he that true competitor of, hey, I want to go toe-to-toe with Kirby Smart and the Georgias and show Alabama who they are now that Nick Saban's not there. That's who I would bring in. I think he's done a terrific job at Oregon. I think he's also brought in some quality coaches who are now head coaches, and that speaks volumes of who is on his staff. And that's when you're successful in this industry, it's because of who you hire as your coaching staff, and he's done a great job. So me, that would be him. I'm sure I know that Lane Kiffin is going to be targeted.
Yeah.
I don't know if Lane is, because he got passed up last time and didn't get a call when they hired BK, and he is a petty Betty. I don't know if he even really goes with that, or he's going to be like, no, y'all passed last time, I'm going to do it here. But Lane has to look in the mirror and say, do I have the resources at Ole Miss to win a national championship?
Correct.
If he feels that he does, I don't think he leaves.
Right.
But I definitely think he'll listen to the call.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if Lane is able to let that go, because he knows how to troll, and he's kept receipts, and that motivates him every morning. But I'd rather have a coach like Lane Kiffin who has someone to beat and wants to be there and is willing to do the work than someone like Brian Kelly, who's done this for a long time and won a lot of games, but not won a lot of meaningful games.
Absolutely. Chess and Boucher, you're the best. Thank you so much for joining us here at Southeast Sports Plus.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Absolutely. Hour number 2 of Southeast Sports Plus continues after
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone and Gerhard Mathangani.
Hour number 2 of Southeast Sports Plus, we will begin with the Auburn Tigers. We knew one thing on Saturday was going to happen. Either Auburn or Arkansas would get their first SEC win. Both teams have been knocking on the door, very close in games, but it's the Auburn Tigers who come away with the win. They got a big defensive play from Rashawn Pleasant. Nice quarterback play from both Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels, and the special teams came to play as well as Auburn now has their first SEC win of the season in Fayetteville. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you here on a Taco Tuesday. Patrick, I found it really interesting for this Auburn football team because Arkansas was a team that was gaining a lot of confidence. We had talked with Trey Dare, we had talked with Courtney Mims about what this Arkansas program was putting together. And they played 2 close games going into the Auburn game.
Right.
Auburn had played 4 seemingly close games against Oklahoma and several others. Georgia is another one. And Auburn comes away with the win. Both teams felt desperate for a win, but I felt Auburn was a little bit more desperate going into that game.
Yeah, and I felt like last week when we were talking with Trey, I know he said that he thought that Arkansas could get Auburn. I personally thought this was Auburn's game to lose. I mean, coming in, obviously, both teams playing to – I mean, I know Bobby's not the coach, the full-time coach at Arkansas yet, but it felt like both coaches were coaching for their jobs this weekend, and heading into it, neither team had won an SEC game yet this year. But I just felt going into it, we talked about the matchup of can Auburn's defense shut down Arkansas's offense, but we didn't really talk about the other matchup too much with – Auburn's offense hasn't been playing well this year, and Arkansas's defense is one of the worst, I think, only to Tennessee, who we just talked about earlier in the show.
Yeah.
So it was that matchup to me was the one that really determined the game for me.
Yeah.
But that's the matchup that I thought was going to determine the game. But I mean, you flip it on the other side. Auburn gets 4 turnovers, and they made the difference.
Yep, they certainly did. And as you see it there, they scored 33 points. They had a pick 6. They had a really good special teams play as well that led to another touchdown. So, I mean, it was a kind of a complete game for the Auburn Tigers. Rashawn Pleasant with the pick 6 there in the fourth quarter to give the Tigers the lead for good in that matchup. But another thing you talked about was defense, and the quarterback situation I found really interesting because both Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels got reps in practice that weekend. And Coach was very, very open about saying, hey, we still trust Jackson with this offense moving forward, but we will give the Stanford transfer, Ashton Daniels, a lot of reps in practice to see if he's the number 1 guy. Both guys, I looked at the box score earlier, similar numbers. There was obviously a really bad pick 6 for Jackson Arnold, which put him on the bench for the rest of the game. However, Ashton Daniels went 6 for 8, 77 yards, about almost 10 yards per completion, quarterback rating of 55. Jackson Arnold, 7 for 12, 73 yards, so 4 yards difference, 6.1 yards per carry or per reception, 1 touchdown, but a costly pick 6. He had a QBR of 14.3, which that math really doesn't even compute to me because, and maybe it's because it's the pick 6. And QBR is obviously is a metric. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But if you are Hugh Freeze going into this week, just based on, obviously we're not privy to what happens in practice.
Right.
But if you are Hugh Freeze based on what you saw in the football game last week, who's the starter this week, in your opinion, going into the Kentucky game?
This is Ashton Daniels' game.
Okay.
And honestly, I felt like the door was open last week when Hugh came out and openly stated both quarterbacks are going to get reps. At that point, I was like, all right, this is no longer Jackson's job. Now this is probably Ashton Daniels' job. Right. And I know he didn't really get to throw it that much, 6 for 8, as you mentioned, 77 yards. The ground game really carried the offense there. But I feel like the more and more Ashton plays with this offense, I mean, you talk about the weapons on offense.
Yes.
All they need is a quarterback that can we talked about it earlier in the season with their arch rival Alabama.
Yeah.
All Ty Simpson had to do, get the ball to his weapons.
Yes. And not turn it over.
If Auburn could just get the ball out to Cam Coleman and just let him go to work.
Right.
I mean, I feel like this could be a completely different team that we're talking about here.
Absolutely. And going into this game, and actually even leaving the game, because Auburn's defense did not allow 25 points. They're one of 6 FBS teams to not allow 25 points in a single game. So you would think even if an average offense, you would be fine. And, of course, they relied on special teams as well, because their kicker, Alex McPherson, brother to Evan McPherson, really good story, by the way, because he had an illness, he had a sickness, and they continue to go to him. Hugh Freeze said, hey, we will continue to use you as a kicker, and he goes 6 for 6. He's the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week as well. So the defense has really come to play. The special teams has come to play, and it was like, can they just muster anything on offense? And it feels like Ashton Daniels is the guy that kind of got them over the hump. I'm really excited to see how these two guys handle this week of practice and who comes out as the QB1 in the Kentucky game, because I think you're right. I think if it's Jackson Arnold that comes out as QB1 in the Kentucky game, he might get a little bit of a leeway, and it might be, hey, it's your job until you make the mistake. If it's Ashton Daniels that comes out as QB1, it might be his job for good.
Look, I mean, if Jackson gets a chance this week, he has like this much room, wiggle room.
Right.
I mean, one more pick, honestly, I think he's done for the year.
Yeah.
But if Ashton comes out and starts this game, I think he's already done for the year.
Right.
So, I mean, Jackson, he really has – this is go time for him. And I think against a Kentucky defense that just allowed 50-plus points to Tennessee, obviously Tennessee is one of the best offenses in the SEC.
Right.
But 1 week after, I mean, allowing 16 points plus overtime to Texas.
And a star quarterback there as well. So this is a really good really good Kentucky defense that they're going up against this week. We got a chance to hear from head coach Hugh Freeze about that quarterback competition.
Yeah, I don't think there's any greater motivator than competition, and that's what it is. It's an open competition to see who prepares and plays the best. They both will split reps, and then we'll make a decision. There's a lot of good things that both did. I thought Ashton showed an incredible amount of poise. So really only graded him on 2 minuses. But I thought he showed great poise and leadership and a difficult time to come in the game when the momentum had totally shifted the other way, and thought he gave us a spark up until Jackson's interception. Thought he played really, really well to that point. So it'll be exciting to see how they both respond and compete this week as we head into this game.
So Coach making it very, very clear that it's a 2-man race between Ashton Daniels and Jackson Arnold. And we kind of saw that last week. But even last week, he would throw in the name of the freshman quarterback, who is a 5-star and potentially the most talented player in that quarterback room, in Deuce Knight. Deuce Knight, we know him well. He's from our area, Lucedale, Mississippi, right down the road, about an hour from where we sit here in Mobile. And it's been very curious why he was not mentioned in the quarterback competition as they move forward. What did you make of the omission, so to speak, of Deuce Knight this week as compared to last week when his name got thrown in there, even though we knew he probably didn't have much of a chance?
Part of me thinks eligibility-wise.
Sure. Yeah.
Obviously, if you play more than 4 games and you can't redshirt and stuff like that. But at the same time, this is already a lost season for Auburn. I mean, you're not making the college football playoff. You're not making the SEC championship game. But it is definitely a little bit interesting because you would like to see your freshmen, get some reps in a, I don't want to say high pressure situation because, I mean, at this point in the season, expectations are down.
Right.
But still SEC reps against SEC opponents. It is a little bit interesting that, Hugh Freeze isn't throwing his name in the mix at all.
Yeah, he's a dual threat quarterback. Once again, went to Loosedale over there in Mississippi. He enrolled early, so he's been on campus for a while as well. To me, I think it's kind of twofold. I agree with you that a lot of it might be eligibility, be able to save this year, let him redshirt this year, go through another year in the system, and then full go next season. Another thing might just be he might just not have the offense all together right now, and this would not be foreign for a true freshman to walk in and you're learning college life. You're learning, the dorms, the schedule, the campus, and you're learning a new playbook. Sometimes it's a lot for a guy, and you don't want to throw a guy in before he's ready just because of what he did in high school as well. So I think there might be a little bit of that as well. And I also won't be surprised, though, too, if he's keeping most of this under wraps because they might have a couple of special packages just for Deuce.
Exactly. Yes.
And just keeping it under wraps like, hey, we're not going to unveil this whole thing, but they might go into the red zone and do what Lane Kiffin has done with Austin Simmons and just have some special package placed just for Deuce Knight and let him feel comfortable in that role instead of his, being QB1.
Exactly, and I think it also goes back to why Hugh isn't naming a starter for this week to make Kentucky prepare for both quarterbacks, even though, in my opinion, I think it is Ashton. I don't think Jackson has another chance going back. I mean, we had the questions going into the season. Okay, Jackson's really good with his legs, but he only threw for 200-plus yards twice last year.
Right.
So what can he do in this offense? But it will be interesting to see Deuce moving forward, but at the same time, in today's college world, if you don't play him this year, you better be shelling out the money to make sure he stays because I'm sure there are going to be some schools that are going to try to tamper with him and be like, hey, why don't you hop in the portal? We'll give you a lot of money.
Right. Re-recruiting your own locker room is a very, very big deal. And unless you just sit down with a player and tell them your intentions overall, you're right. Those outside parties can start whispering in the ear and make it sound like the grass might be greener elsewhere. And so we'll see if that ends up being the case with Deuce Knight. Of course, the question about Deuce Knight was posed to head coach Hugh Freeze about the true freshman there from Loosedale.
I've said this publicly, and I mean it. I think Deuce is the future of this program. I don't know that it's fair to throw him in that right now. He probably would handle it great, and I'm certainly not saying we won't. He'll get a few reps too, but it's really hard to try to do that with three guys right now. And but I do firmly believe there's not many arms like Deuce Knight. He's got an elite one. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that go into playing the position of quarterback that he's quickly becoming very very better at understanding all of those, and I can't wait to see when he does get his opportunity.
All right, so before we move on to the flip side of this and go to the Arkansas side of this, I had to pull up the odds for this week's game and the spread for this week's game. And Auburn plays Kentucky, and you just mentioned it not even 5 minutes ago that they played Texas tooth and nail, 16-13. The game went to overtime against the Texas squad that we think has found itself once again. Kentucky also, as you mentioned, just dropped 34 points on Tennessee. I know Tennessee's got a very bad defense, but they dropped 34 points on them. And then they played Georgia. That game was tight at the beginning. Obviously, Georgia pulled away there, and Georgia ended up winning that game 34-14. Played Ole Miss within a touchdown.
Yep.
Auburn comes into this game as a 10.5-point favorite.
Okay. Honestly,
I'm kind of blown away by that.
I would be, but I think they're looking at the matchup of Kentucky's offense against Auburn's defense.
Right.
If I were genuinely predicting this game, in my honest opinion, I don't think Kentucky scores a touchdown.
Okay.
I genuinely just do not see it.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked about Tennessee's defense being the worst. I mean, Texas got a pretty good defense. They only scored 13.
It's true.
I would argue this year that Auburn has a better defense than Texas does.
Right.
So, honestly, I think they're banking on the fact that the Auburn offense can score 3 touchdowns, maybe.
Right.
2 or 3 touchdowns. And for Kentucky to I'd predict for them to kick 2 field goals.
Yeah. I was doing the predicted score math on this, and it's about 27-17 because the over/under is 44.
Yep. Oh, okay.
So they're saying that 27-17 is about 28-17 depending on where you lay that half point.
I don't see more than 1 touchdown.
Me too. And I'm right there. I'm with you. It's interesting to see Auburn as a 10.5 point favorite over anybody because it's like Auburn hasn't really proven that they can beat anybody. They can pull away from anybody by more than 10 points. But I do think if it is Ashton Daniels, if you're Vegas, you're saying we believe that this backup quarterback will be just enough of a wrinkle to take this Auburn offense over the top, and then you add that in with the defense. Then you have a lethal combination there between those two.
Yeah, and it's just, as you mentioned, just Auburn hasn't been able to pull away from anybody. They keep playing these close games.
Right.
I mean, it is shocking, but I think, in the betting world, we have these do not bet / stay away from these games.
Yeah.
This has to be on everybody's do not bet.
Yeah, and I think that if you're the betting public, I think Kentucky will be a dog that everybody likes. For some reason, they'll say, hey, they'll remember the Texas game. Mm-hmm. They'll say, hey, they put up 24 points last week. I think that'll be like the dog that is the public favorite going into this week.
Keep in mind, this is at Jordan-Hare, too.
That's right. And Kentucky has not done well at home there in those situations. I find that one really interesting. I think that's going to be either an Auburn or pass situation. Either you really like Auburn blows them out, or you got to pass on the game overall. Let's flip to the Arkansas side of this because we've talked about this with Arkansas. There's at some point it can't be about the moral victories, and it has to be about the actual wins there on the field. Bobby Petrino once again suffering another loss there. It seemed like this Arkansas program had found something in the wake of firing Sam Pittman, but it feels like over the last few weeks they've gone backwards.
It feels like the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yes.
I mean, you fire Sam Pittman. Trey Dare comes on our show. He talks all the time about how, Arkansas fired Sam Pittman because he lost too many close games. Well, right now, Bobby Petrino is losing all of these close games. I mean, you just saw it on the screen there.
Yep.
He's lost by a combined 15 points
in his
first 3 games.
That's right.
And when you look at these, who they played against, I mean, 34-31 loss to number 12 Tennessee.
Yep.
45-42 loss. You almost knocked off then number 4 Texas A&M at home.
Yep.
And then a 33-24 loss on a defensive pick 6 and then a couple of field goals afterwards. I mean, it has to be so frustrating for Bobby Petrino.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he is doing everything he can to win over these fans again.
Yep.
And it just feels like he isn't able to get over the top. You're climbing up Mount Everest.
Right.
But you stumble 50 feet from the top. And it's got to be so frustrating. But the crazy part is the fans still love him.
They still do. And both Trey Dare and Courtney have both said, hey, look, there's a contingency among Arkansas people that they remember the days that he was the head coach and they were rocking and rolling. And there's a sense of when Bobby Petrino gets his own guys, fill in the blank. We will be back to being Arkansas. I don't know if that's the case, but I do say that if you are Arkansas, you have to feel at least pretty good about the way that the team has shown the fight since firing Sam Pittman. But it's got to be frustrating because what are they called? The Kings of Almost, like the champions of almost. Once again, the champions of almost come away with another win. Their last win way back early in the season against Arkansas State in that matchup there at I think it was War Memorial Coliseum when they played there. But they've lost every game since then, including a 1-point loss to Memphis. Obviously, got blown out by Notre Dame, Sam Pittman's last game, and then as you mentioned, lost the last 3 games by a combined 15 points going into this week's matchup against Mississippi State. This week's matchup against Mississippi State feels like Auburn's matchup against Arkansas, where it's like, hey, this is a game where both teams are so desperate and both teams have been right there.
Look, this is the only chance Arkansas has left to get to 3 wins on the season, honestly. I mean, you have the open week in Week 11, but then you're going to go to LSU. I don't care if LSU's not having a good year. I feel like now that Brian Kelly's gone, I feel like Death Valley might start healing a little bit there. That might become a home field advantage again. And then you go to Texas, which Texas is going to do literally everything they can to win out. They're going to put all of their energy on each game to the point where week 14, they're probably going to be tired as can be.
Yeah.
And then you face now I might retract that statement here for a second, because that Missouri game, they might be able to win that because Missouri's going to be on their third string quarterback. I think it's confirmed now that Bo Perbula will miss the rest of the season. So really unfortunate loss there for them. But I mean, 4-8 is the absolute ceiling, and then 2-10 is definitely the floor.
Absolutely. We got a chance to hear from Bobby Petrino reflecting on yet another close loss in Fayetteville.
Yeah, not so much bend, don't break, because I don't like to bend. You know, you'd like to just shut them down 3 and out and go. But, you know, I do think that we did a real good job. Now, Auburn was patient. They ran the ball. They kept us off the field, and they ran the football and were patient with it and, you know, made it a fourth quarter game, and that's where we didn't get it done. You know, offensively is, you know, watching the video is very upsetting to me. We did not play offensive football the way we need to play, the way we have played, the way we've showed we can play, starting with the offensive line, which, you know, I've been given a lot of credit to, bragging a lot about, feeling good about, but we didn't execute it all up front like we need to in the run game and protection. Talon did not play a good game. You know, he didn't execute the way he's been executing. Missed some reads, missed some wide open guys. It was just a situation where it's very disturbing to me that that's what we got out of the offense.
I feel like it's interesting what he's talking about there with Talon Green not having a good game. But, I mean, you've got to give the Auburn defense credit.
Yes.
No one has been able to have a really good game against them.
That's
besides
exactly
maybe Baylor.
Right.
And that was the first game of the season.
Yep. And even then it was a kind of a struggle, especially early on in that game for Sawyer Robertson, who's another good quarterback there for the Baylor Bears. No, you're right. I think that, calling out your quarterback, obviously, he knows his quarterback better than anybody, so maybe he will – you know, he will respond to that. But I do feel it's a little bit unfair because, like he mentioned, his defense couldn't get Auburn off the field. And so it didn't really give Talon a lot of chances. I think Auburn played 43 snaps on defense. They didn't give their quarterback a lot of chances to be able to kind of rectify the situation for that offense. So another chance, another situation this upcoming week to be able to win their first game. But it's a perfect situation just like last week. Both Auburn and Arkansas came in winless in the SEC. This week, both Mississippi State and Arkansas come in winless in the SEC. As of right now, Arkansas is a 4.5-point favorite.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm interested in that one too. The game is in Fayetteville, but it went from 3.5 to 4.5. So the money, even though Arkansas was the favorite, the money's going to Arkansas. The early money, at least, is going to Arkansas. So I think a lot of people think that, you know, this is either they think that Mississippi State will be a little deflated or that Talon Green and company will bounce back.
You know how I just talked about the do not bet on the Auburn Kentucky game? This one is a do bet. And honestly, I am definitely going to, after the show is over, put some money down on Mississippi State.
I love it.
Not just to cover, but to probably win by 4.5. I think it's the complete opposite. I think Vegas has it all the way turned around.
Wow. So you said the wrong team's favorite.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Blake Shapen, 380 yards, I think, against Texas, which everyone says they have a great defense. Blake was just able to, you know, carve it up like it was Thanksgiving turkey. But you look at the other side, Mississippi State's defense was able to contain Texas's offense all the way up until the fourth quarter.
Exactly.
I mean, that fourth quarter was, we've seen in football now, if you count the NFL as well, 2 colossal collapses in the last quarter. You look at the Mississippi State game, and then you look at the Giants-Broncos game the week before. I mean, that was the difference, and I didn't really watch the Mississippi State-Texas game. I didn't get a chance to. I don't know if it was more so like garbage time, you know, Arch being able to rack up the stats.
Right.
And then the punt return obviously was a big thing.
That was huge. Yeah.
I mean, you look at this week's game, Blake Shapen's a good quarterback.
I mean,
they just haven't been able to get it done against an Arkansas defense that cannot stop anybody.
Yes.
They wouldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat.
I know.
I'm just going to say it how it is.
This is a really, really interesting matchup. And you bring up a good point about Arkansas's defense being Swiss cheese. And can Chapin, can he light it up for Mississippi State's first win of the season? We will see. But this is a really good quarterback battle here between Blake Chapin, Taylor Green, both guys looking for their first win in the SEC. That game is in Fayetteville. A 3 o'clock kickoff there at Arkansas. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we play another edition of Contender or Pretender with another game in the SEC now in the book. Stay with us. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here. Hour number 2 rolls on, and this is something we've done for the last 3 weeks or so. Now that we have some data points here in the SEC, it's contender or pretender. We take a team that is on the ropes there as far as being able to make the college football playoff, maybe win the SEC championship, backdoor their way in, and or playing really well right now. We've had some good ones here, Patrick.
Yes.
Who's today's contender or pretender?
Today's contender or pretender are the Tennessee Volunteers. You know, they sit at 6-2 right now. They still play Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. So I'm interested to get your take on this.
This is a really interesting one because this week's game is pivotal. And when we talked about this with Sam Rothman last hour, the fact that Tennessee comes into this game, and this is basically an elimination game between Tennessee and Oklahoma, two teams that obviously need to win to stay alive here in the college football playoff. I think what they did to Kentucky's defense last week, bouncing back after that loss to Alabama, and the fact that they're really good both throwing the ball and running the ball.
Yep.
Usually offenses that are really dynamic, they are shaded more to one side. They either run the ball really well and pass it okay, or the other way around. This team can rely on the running game. Now, the defense is absolutely horrible.
Yes.
If you're putting it in a box, the defense is terrible. But like Sam said, they weirdly lead the nation, or they lead the SEC for sure, in turnover and takeaways and in points scored from your defense, whether it is a scoop and score for a touchdown, interception return for a touchdown. So this defense is kind of bend, don't break, but in my opinion, it is good enough to let the offense take over. I say they are a true contender because of how lethal they are offensively.
You know, the Tennessee offense is one of the most dynamic in all of college football.
Absolutely.
I mean, we just saw them drop 56 on Kentucky now. Obviously, Kentucky's not the greatest team in the world, but, I mean, still dropping 56 points in an SEC game, that's nothing to shake your head about. Now, when you look at the other side, and I'm just going to go out and say, I'm sorry, Vol fans, you guys are a contender this year.
Oh, yeah.
That defense is too much of a liability for you to legitimately be a contender in not only the SEC, but also in all of college football. You saw what happened in the Alabama game. And honestly, the offense is a little bit suspect too at times when they play against good defenses. I mean, you saw the game against Mississippi State, a little bit suspect. You saw the game against Alabama, was suspect. And you just do not have a good enough defense. This team, in my opinion, reminds me of last year's Ole Miss team. Especially with the points on defense, but you're also letting up so many yards and so many points that you cannot get off the field and be able to legitimately hold a lead. Tennessee is the NCAA's version of the Dallas Cowboys this year, by far.
And last year's Cincinnati Bengals, there's a few other ones where they're so offensive reliant that it feels like their margin of error gets smaller and smaller. And here's a big thing, though, too, because we saw this with Auburn last week, what they did to Arkansas. If you have a team that can run the football effectively and keep Joey Aguilar and company off the field and limit their possessions, Arkansas is in real trouble. Because if you have a team that can run the football and run it all over Tennessee's defense and not let that offense even on the field, that's where Tennessee can get in trouble. I feel like the offense is lethal enough to be able to do it. But as I sit here, if Tennessee is playing, I know they play Oklahoma this week, but let's just say Tennessee is playing Vandy this week or Auburn this week. Any team that could run the football effectively, whether it's I think Missouri can run the football effectively as well with Ahmad Hardy and company. Those to me are the teams that could really give Tennessee a lot of trouble. And so I don't think that they'll have that much. The Oklahoma game presents some challenges, of course, but Oklahoma can't run the ball. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, they have Blaylock, so I'm not going to say they completely can't run the ball. They've just been so up and down.
And running Tennessee's open next week, so they're going to give every last breath they can because obviously there's no wiggle room at this point. They're in the same boat as Texas.
Right.
And when you look at going ahead, I mean, that off week's going to help. Then you've got New Mexico State. Sam talked about they haven't beaten Florida in forever. And honestly, I'm sorry. I really do not see them winning out. And honestly, I think it is going to come down to the Vanderbilt game at the end of the year, and Vanderbilt's going to win the game.
Wow. In Neyland.
Vanderbilt is winning the game because the defense is too suspect.
Yeah.
And it really is the Achilles heel, and it's going to be an unfortunate wasted year for Tennessee. I'm sorry. I gotta say, I just do not like the defense.
Right.
Even though your offense is good.
If those two teams played right now, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, I'd have to give it to Vanderbilt. I mean, they're playing better football right now. They can run the football as well, and the defense is playing lights out. Another edition of Contender or Pretender. The Tennessee Volunteers, you had some really good ones here because you can make the arguments really both ways and really conclusive arguments. We will get a lot more knowledge this upcoming weekend when Tennessee plays Oklahoma to see if they really are Contender or Pretender, because it's basically a de facto elimination game for both the Sooners and the Volunteers. Stay with us here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will head over and talk some Texas A&M football with our good friend Parker Reed next. Well, welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus, coming off a really great weekend of college football. Built up a whole lot of storylines here on Southeast Sports Plus. Gerhard, Mathangani, and Patrick Wallace joining you. The talk of the town so far, outside of Brian Kelly, has been the Texas A&M Aggies. This is a program, Patrick, that you said, you're like, I think they'll find a way to lose 4 games. And I was right there with you. I was riding shotgun on that narrative train, and I'll tell you that they just continue to impress and impress and impress. Once again, Parker Ream, our good friend, joins us for another conversation here about the Aggies. It feels like with this team, Parker, that they have been able to find different ways to win, whether it's high-scoring games, low-scoring games on the road. And then this past week, in my opinion, this might be their most impressive game, going to Death Valley, a close game early, blowing it out late. What did you make of the Aggies' latest performance to stay undefeated on the year?
Well, Gerhard, if Patrick's prediction of them losing 4 games is going to come true, then they're going to have to lose to Samford.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Just heard who that was on the graphic.
That clip was pretty funny, too. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Patrick's onto something. But I think they did put a lot of those doubts to bed. A lot of those people that may have had doubts about this A&M team. And Mike Elko even addressed it this week, too. He's like, let's stop talking about the past and what we weren't able to accomplish in the past. Let's talk about the present and what we're doing now to sort of silence those doubters. And they did just that in Baton Rouge. I mean, talk about a second half beatdown in Baton Rouge. I think that's really what Texas A&M did. And you saw the effect. LSU just can't take it anymore. They let go of Brian Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Fired a coach there in the process. To me, there was an old Nick Saban quote. It was make their blank quit, and it was just kind of like impose your will on this team until they quit. I had not really seen that from Texas A&M from this football team as they were kind of marching through the season, even though they were undefeated. Do you feel like this game was another statement in the level that they can take their game even higher than where they are? Because I think a lot of people are paying attention to Ohio State, and deservingly so, and Indiana, and deservingly so. But this win seemed to me like, hey, they're putting their footprint on college football and saying that, hey, we've played well, we're undefeated, but we still have another level.
I think it was a statement. And you look at the two wins that really draw a lot of attention, Notre Dame and then this LSU one. But I think the LSU win was a little bit more, I guess, more impressive. I think the Notre Dame game, since it was so close, since it was just back and forth, an offensive shootout, I think a lot of people didn't put a lot of stake in that. Like, oh, they maybe just lucked out in South Bend. But this one was all Aggies in the second half. And even trailing at the half, Marcel Reed throwing 2 interceptions. I mean, that they didn't play the best in the first half, but they come out of in the second half like men on a mission. That punt return from Casey Concepcion really changing the momentum. And then from that point on, I mean, all Aggies in Baton Rouge on Saturday. So I do think that it definitely brought this Aggies team to a new level, and they do have a legitimate case to be in that top 2. I think that might have been cause for concern for some Aggie fans to be just staying put at 3 with the resume that they built so far.
Is it fair? I feel like every week I look at Texas A&M, and it feels like they have a sluggish first half, and then Mike Elko just says something. He's got the like Mike's secret stuff that he just gives to the players, and then they just come out in the second half, and then they just pull away. I mean, is it fair to say that they're a second half team? Or is that might be pushing it a little bit.
It is a good question, because historically second half teams do make deep runs. I mean, you have to be somewhat of a second half team, but I think they're trying to shake that narrative where they want to play the full 60 minutes. Right. I don't think they just want to play the final 30. So I do think we've seen that this year, though, is they are a second half team. And we've seen that in those close games where they're able to shut the door in various ways. That Auburn game, not letting the Tigers get anything going in that second half and kind of climb back into it, even with the offense down and out for the count. And then you see those Notre Dame games and the LSU games, the offense really just providing that spark. I guess you could classify them as a second half team, but I'm sure Mike Elko would not like that if you said that to him.
Mike Elko just wants everyone to just focus on the 60 minutes. He doesn't want to talk about the past. He doesn't want to talk about being a second half team. But I'm sure he does want to talk about Marcel Reed, because, I mean, he was one of those guys that did spark that second half, winning SEC Offensive Player of the Week. It feels like he's really started to come into his own here as the season has progressed.
Yeah, I think you've seen a lot of maturity expanding throughout the season, but we knew the talent that Marcel Reed had. I think it was about taking that next step. You saw that in South Bend. You've seen that throughout SEC play. Is this guy is legit? I think he's climbing up those Heisman boards, and if Texas A&M keeps winning, rightfully so. I think it's right now. I've seen a lot of people 1 and 2 with Ty Simpson and Marcel Reed in terms of that Heisman race, and I think that he's earned every bit of that. He's doing it through the air, he's doing it on the ground, but he's also leading Texas A&M to these wins in any form or fashion, and I think that's really the most important thing. Is
that a formula that you think can continue? He was the leading rusher in this football game. for this team moving forward, I know that one running back is down, but obviously you still got a really nice running back room. Are his legs something that they will continue to use moving forward? Or do you think that was a one-off given the situation against LSU?
He kind of broke through last year against Brian Kelly's defense in Aggie land. He had 3 rushing touchdowns in that game. I think it is part of his game. I think that's something that can't be discounted. And he even said that at the beginning of the year, that he's seen all the talk. He's not a passer, but he has developed as a passer. And I think the running has always come naturally to him. And that's what he showed, a career high against LSU in Baton Rouge. So I think a lot of Tiger fans were like, oh, not this again. But that's something that he could do on any given Saturday. I think he just tries to let the game come to him, and that's what he's been doing this season.
You mentioned Casey Concepcion at the beginning of the season, and he has been kind of a spark, maybe an X factor for this football team. How impactful has he been for those that have watched Texas A&M, maybe scoreboard watch, but haven't watched play-to-play, series to series? How impactful has he been in just the timing of his huge plays?
I think whether it's catching the ball or returning it 80-plus yards for a touchdown, I mean, how many players in the country can you say can make that impact on both of those sides of the ball? I think, and that's something that Casey Concepcion brings every single time he touches the ball, is the threat of scoring a touchdown. And then you add Mario Craver to the mix too. The speed of Mario Craver on the outside really drawing some attention maybe away from Casey Concepcion. So when he gets the ball, it might be 6. And that's what you saw in Baton Rouge. He definitely could be up for returner of the year. We'll just see where the cards fall.
Absolutely. We got a chance to hear from Coach Micah Elko about, hey, don't talk about the past right now. This is all about what's going on in 2025.
Yeah, I told him, I said, you're the better team, but you have to play better football. And if you don't play better football, you're going to let one slip away tonight. That's honestly what I told him at halftime. I said, we got to stop committing penalties. We got to stop short-selfing our drives. We got to stop missing tackles. We got to step up and we got to tackle people. And I thought, obviously we went out and we got a good start to the second half, and I think we got the momentum, and then the punt return really put us up and started to play from the front, and I thought we had a big advantage at that point. Again, like I keep saying this, it's not about the past. We got to stop worrying about the past, thinking about the past, talking about the past. I'm excited for what this team is doing right now. This team is doing some really special things. I think we should enjoy it. I think we should stop focusing on last year. I think we should. I answered 3 questions on our Wednesday media call about last year. I don't understand why we can't just enjoy what's happening. We should enjoy what's happening. We're an 8-0 football team.
From a mindset standpoint, he's obviously sick and tired of the reporters asking about the past and all of that. From a mindset standpoint, do you think the team has completely bought into what they're trying to do right now, or do any of those demons from previous years at all enter the equation, or is that just off from all of us on the outside?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it is a little bit on the outside, but that's also the pessimism that comes with what's happened in Texas A&M athletics throughout the years. I think you get to these points where, this might be the year. Similar, we were talking about baseball, like the Brewers and the Cubs. It's always, this might be the year, and then it's always a letdown at the end of the season. I think that's similarly to what Texas A&M fans have felt, but also what Texas A&M football players have felt. And Mike Elko's trying to not put as much of an emphasis on what hasn't been done in the past and what could be done in the future. So I do think it seeps in a little bit. It's not easy as a program to consistently be in the SEC, be in that title consideration, and then not make it there. And I think they're trying to make it to the SEC championship for the first time ever. And if they can do that, I think a lot of those demons from the past will be exercised from College Station for sure.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, we want to touch on Baylor for a second. Things looked really solid at the beginning of the season. Obviously, Sawyer Robinson coming back there as the starting quarterback. Now on a 2-game losing streak. Obviously, things not all for loss. But what do you make of where the Baylor Bears stand right now and the position for head coach Dave Aranda?
I think the hot seat has grown hotter, and that's something that cooled down last year with some winning that Baylor did. They went on that 6-game win streak and really showed maybe what this team could look like. And I think that's what a lot of fans have expected this season to be like. but it hasn't turned out like that. And I think when results fall short of expectations, that's when you start getting that question of how much longer can that hot seat continue to burn. And I honestly don't know what the future holds, because Baylor typically hasn't been the kind of program to fire a coach mid-season.
Yep.
So I would probably say they would hold off on that until at least the end of the season. But also, you look at the recruiting classes that are coming in from Baylor. These are some of the highest recruiting classes that Baylor's had, not only in the Dave Aranda era, but in recent memory in the past couple decades. So do you want to make a coaching change that might shake up that recruiting classes and all those for 2026 and 2027?
Right.
And then really compete against all of these other head coaching vacancies.
Right.
Exactly. And you got Texas Tech, who's just throwing money at recruits. I mean, then you get further and further away from being able to compete. And I think that's something that Baylor really has to weigh. And obviously all the fans can say, oh, get rid of him, get rid of Dave. He's not winning as much as we want him to. But are you going to go and find somebody that's better? And like you said, in the coaching carousel that it is today, you better go get James Franklin or Brian Kelly at that point, because you gotta compete.
Exactly. It's not the time to be making emotional decisions if you're the Baylor Bears, for a lot of different reasons. Parker Ream, thank you so much. A big game here for both Texas A&M next week, and then the Baylor Bears will play Central Florida. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Parker Ream joining us from Waco, covering both programs, and should be a lot of fun here for both teams as they move forward.
Yeah, and I think Texas A&M is going to really enjoy this bye week.
Yes.
Heading into the last 4 games of the season. I seriously think that we could be talking about a 12-0 Texas A&M team at the end of the season. They go to Missouri after. Missouri's on their third-string quarterback, and who knows what Texas will be.
Right.
That's going to be a great matchup. It was last year with a spot in the SEC championship on the line. It's going to be even bigger this year.
Shaping up to be a great, great game. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will close up shop here on a Tuesday.
Well, we've all heard the shot heard around the world, and we heard the pitch heard around the world last night. Why you serve up a center cut fastball to arguably the game's greatest hitter of all time when he's already hit a home run is just shocking to me. But as you can see it, Shohei Ohtani reaches all 9 times, including 5 walks. And I think the Blue Jays aren't going to be pitching to him anymore. I'm pretty sure I heard that come out today, that they're just going to walk him the rest of the series.
They might as well, because he was unbelievable, and he was one major storyline in one of the epic games, probably I would say in the last half decade, one of the best sporting events that I have seen in forever. In case you were passed out, dead asleep, and didn't see it or hadn't seen any of the news today.
I was out.
I ended up watching it from bed. 18 innings. The game ends on a Freddie Freeman home run. But as you saw there, Shohei Ohtani reached base all 9 times, a pair of home runs. Now LA takes a 2-1 lead in the series after a walk-off to win it in impeccable fashion, as the Fall Classic moved to LA. And about 17 hours after he was on the field for that game, Shohei Ohtani will take the mound here tonight, just showing what we're watching right now. We can't take it for granted, because it's, if not the best, it's one of the best of all time.
I mean, I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be the greatest baseball player to ever live. I mean, for the longest time, everyone was talking about Babe Ruth and what he was able to do. Well, Shohei Ohtani is doing what Babe Ruth did, but in a much better league at this point. But I think as he left the field last night, he said, "Man, I'm just trying to get to sleep so he can get ready for this game." But it's definitely interesting. 18 innings. The last time it happened in a World Series was in Chavez Ravine.
That's right.
Good 7 years. Wow. I'm just realizing that was 7 years ago now. That's crazy.
Insane. Yeah.
I remember watching this game. This one I stayed up for the entirety of.
Okay.
And I was on the East Coast. So I think this ended at like 3 o'clock because this was before the pitch clock.
Right.
But yeah, 2018 World Series, ironically, Game 3. LA won 3-2.
Yep.
Muncy walk-off home run off Nathan Eovaldi. When I was doing the research on this one, 18 different pitchers, 561 pitches thrown in the entire game, 34 total strikeouts, 21 runners left on base. I mean,
what I found so interesting, insane. What I found so interesting about this game is that all the narratives coming into this matchup were all, if the Dodgers can keep their starting pitchers on the mound, and just go as deep as possible and don't get to the bullpen, then they'll be in great shape. And then the bullpen was phenomenal yesterday. Do you think that was a one-off for this Dodgers team, or can they continue it because they had to pitch so many different guys yesterday, and Ohtani obviously goes to the mound today?
You know, confidence is contagious, and I mean, when you look at a team, I'll use a Cinderella team in March Madness, for example. If you get one win, I mean, you're on top of the world. And when you look in this situation, the bullpen was obviously a talking point coming into the series, and how well the starting rotation for LA has been coming into the series, and for the bullpen to pretty much pick up Tyler Glasnow. I mean, we saw Clayton Kershaw get out of a bases-loaded jam, so he's rewriting his own history books. Obviously, going back in time and looking in postseasons past, it's been, okay, Clayton's been the guy that he does great in the regular season but just can't get it done in the postseason. And he also came out last night and said, "Yeah, you know, I'm going to come out of the pen a few more times, and then I'm done."
Yeah, and he did. And then we saw a lot of different heroics from a lot of different guys today. It's Shane Beamer against Shohei Ohtani on the mound tonight. Who do you like here in Game 4?
You know, this one is a real tough one because as anyone can assume, if LA wins this, it's over.
Yes.
And a lot of people thought coming into the series that LA was going to sweep the Blue Jays. But I look to Shane Bieber and being able to keep these LA hitters off balance. He did a good job against the Mariners in Game 7, keeping them off balance with, I'm going to get a little technical here, the splitters. Those splitters were really working for him. I'm going to see if he can get back to the splitter in this game, kind of keep the Dodgers at bay, and then look at the other side. Man, if Ohtani has that NLCS Game 4 type of game again, which I don't think he will because he'll probably just get walked 4 times. But if he can get it done on the mound, it's wraps. In my opinion,
I don't disagree with that. There is a part of me that still thinks the Dodgers are going to win this series. I just think that for any human, this is a lot. And I think Ohtani is off just a hair, not much, just a hair today. Enough for Vladdy and company for the bats to come around just enough. I like the Blue Jays tonight in Game 4. Thank you.